Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Reselling Roundtable. We are happy to be here tonight. Hopefully, waiting to see who wants to forget about the Super Bowl and come over and chat with us because we are far more entertaining than that Super Bowl is. But tonight we are going to kick it off. Hi, hello, Southern Charm. Hello, Tim and Michelle. How are you? Anyways, we're going to kick it off and we're going to talk about weird things are happening on my screen right now, but okay. We're going to talk about room count. Um, I'm supposed to kick it off. I have a few thoughts on room count, but I know everybody else is going to have quite a few thoughts too. Um, when we all start on Whatnot, and I can remember my first days on Whatnot, you would look at these people, some of the sellers who the OG sellers, the ones who've been around for a while, and you would see hundreds of people in there, and that's like the goal. Like you get in and you're like, oh, I want hundreds of people, I want all these people. I'll make $1 million if I have all these people. And over time, my thinking definitely evolved. I mean, that was at the beginning, the first few months. It's like, oh, get more people, more people. But I'm to a point now where I really think that there's a sweet spot in there somewhere. More is not always better. And I think that applies to the number of people you have in your room at any given time. Some of the things I think about when I see people in there, or when I start thinking about room count, is the chat. This is a social app. And one of the things I preach constantly is making the connections and being able to make those social connections during your shows increases that trust you have with your buyers, which in turn increases your repeat buyers, builds your business. And I think large room counts defeat some of that. I think you're kind of working harder or working against yourself. The bigger your room gets, the less personalized shopping experience that you can provide. And I think that's part of what's unique about Whatnot is we can provide these really personalized, unique experiences. And you can't always control that with the bigger rooms. So I think the further along I get in my Whatnot journey, that I become a more firm believer in having a sweet spot. And whether that be 10 or 50 or 150, but it's one that you can manage as a seller. It's one that you can still interact, you can engage, you can answer questions, and you're feeling like you're part of this with the group versus you standing there performing for the group or selling to a group. Think about it like this is kind of one of the analogies. If you guys see me on my talk shows, I love to try to relate things back to like real life and things outside of Whatnot. So one of the analogies I thought about was think about like when you start a new job or start a new church or move into a new neighborhood. You're not like the most popular kid on the block right away, right? It's relationships. It's one at a time that you're building and you're growing. And I kind of think Whatnot's the same way. And I know there's this whole thing of, oh, if we have this huge room count, I'll get more bids and I'll make more money. And you know what? I'm going to steal a line from Jeremy and he can tell me if I quoted it right or wrong, but it only takes 2 to bid. You don't necessarily need 300 people in order to make money. I'm going to leave it at that. I got more thoughts, but I'm going to leave it right there to get some other thoughts going on here. Lysandra,
Who wants to pick
Jeremy.
up the torch?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I'm picking up the torch. Well, when it comes to room count, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that it also comes down to personality. I know there's certain people that have an ability to juggle more people in a room than others, but the dynamic and interactions you have with people, like you were saying, Tracy, is 100% true. I always call it what I call the cheers environment when you have those smaller room counts. People always think that there's something wrong with that, and I don't believe that's the case because I know of many, many people on here that have been on just as long as I have been, if not longer, and their room counts are in like that 25 to 40 people range, and they're doing plenty of business for themselves, completely manageable, and I think they get a lot more enjoyment out of it. Like just the fact that they have those connections, the social aspect is going to be a lot larger. And I talked about this in the past where depending on where you want to go on this app, if you're going to be more social, there's nothing wrong with that. And you can 100% make a decent amount of money doing that. But you're 100% correct. And I've gone through this from having those small rooms to something that, nothing's gargantuan, 150. And then, in certain circumstances, getting to the 300, 400 range. but on an average in that like 120 to 160 range or something like that. And when you get there, your business model essentially does have to change. You have to start switching from more of the Cheers environment to, you know, a little bit more non-personalized environmental atmosphere that you have to build that isn't built directly with the people in the room. It's more of a entertainment value starts coming into play. And if that's not your thing, then that's not going to be where you want to be anyway. If you're more interested in having these the connectivity that you're going to get, the social enjoyment, and the friends, more of a interpersonal relationship you get. And I've noticed that there's plenty of money to be made to be comfortable, but I've also noticed on the flip side of that, I understand that people like room count. I know how that can puff up your own, perspective on how to, like you're just your feelings, just warm and fuzzies when there's a bunch of people. It's like, oh, all these people want to be in here buying what I have or here because they enjoy what I'm doing or what I have to say. It's an ego boost. There's no two ways about it. It definitely helps that. And in reality, no matter which way you slice it, I give what I call guffing a hard time, where people give you puff their room. I understand the reasons behind that. You get the room count up, it makes you feel better, and that can translate into you being able to sell a little bit better. So going from full spectrum, from having smaller people to larger room counts and that desire, I understand it. I get it. And I think ultimately what you need to do as a seller in live selling is sit down and kind of put some thought into where you want to be and be happy going towards that goal. If you're the type of person that needs the higher room count in order to be the sale, put on the sales mode a little bit more and go a little bit stronger, then, do what you need to do or what you feel is going to get you there. But if you're the type of person that is comfortable, realize there's plenty of money to be made. I go into rooms that I see with like 40, or fewer people, and they're getting just as much money as I do for a large swath of merchandise. Without a doubt, they built those connections. Those people trust them. They're willing to spend through the trust and comfort just as much or more with those sellers than they are going to a room with 300 people in it. And I understand that. I mean, that's a big value added proposition to your sales when you are really, really, not quite one-on-one, but closer to one-on-one with the person than it is with 300 plus. You just feel like another person in a turnstile, essentially. Like, when are you going to have something that I'm interested in? When is it going to be a price I'm willing to bid on it for? And that, to me, explains, and I know all of us have been in rooms where you see that. You go in, you see somebody with 25, 30 people, and they're getting prices that's exactly the same as people with 100, 150, 200, and 300 people in it. So ultimately, we all know here, it affects us, unfortunately, but it's nothing that you have to get caught up on. And so many people, just like, the same thing is for followers, in my opinion. Room count and followers are two things, and bookmarks. Those are the three big things that I don't think people need to be getting caught up on, concerned about, and they spend way too much time.
You're calling me out.
So that, again, that's me personally. And I will say this, though. There's one small observation that I have made in room count, as far as a little bit of consistency, is that, like, right around that 25 room count on a regular basis, it seems like under that, I'm just going to be flat out honest, it seems like it's a struggle for people to get the prices they need. You start getting to that 25, consistent range, you can do well. And then the next number that seems to hit, where people get into a nice groove, is that 40 range, where I start seeing like a little consistent uptick. And this has been my own personal experience as well. And then when you hit the 80 range, you get a little bit. So for me, the key numbers seem to be 20, 25, around 40, 80, and then about that 120, and then 150. After that, for me, this might just be me, my personality, it starts getting to the point where, like, anything over that, you don't really see any significant change in prices or anything like that. You almost can start seeing what might equate to a type of colossal diminishing returns, where you're just more trying to deal with all these people in your room and all the questions and always addressing that as opposed to being able to just cruise through your merchandise. And I'm going to stop talking because I could keep talking about this as well, but there's, two other people here that need to talk. So I'll pass the torch on to whoever wants to pick it up.
Plenty of time.
So I can only really talk about this from personal experience because Tony and I have kind of ran the gamut of both sides of it. And in the beginning, Tony very much gets caught up in the room count and the follower count. And I'm not speaking bad about my husband, but that was a lot of push in our earlier days on Whatnot is how do we get more people in the room? How do we need more people? The more people we get, our average sales price is going to go up. And we built it probably up to about 50 people by ourselves. And when we started adding free shipping is when we really blew up in room count. And then over the course of 4 months, we blew up from those 50 to 80 person room counts up to 150, sometimes 180 people. It did not equate to a higher average sales price.
Absolutely not.
Now, temporarily, the free shipping did, but once the excitement of that free shipping wore down, we were almost right back to where we were on our average sales price. I've also talked a lot about how humbling of an experience it has been going from those big room counts, changing our category on Whatnot, and now our average room count is like 35, 40 people. And I personally like it there. I like going into smaller rooms where I'm noticed by the seller more. I also appreciate the smaller room count for me as a seller. Because I don't want the Cheers environment because you can only survive so long off of your friends. They can't always be spending money with you. But I like to have more of a personal connection with the people that are in my room. If I'm not having fun in my show, you're not going to have fun in my show. What do you have to add to that? I gotta look the other way.
I don't know which way we're looking today, but hi. And listen, I obviously, as my wife, and as a team here, I can't disagree with much of what she said. What I will say is, in the beginning, I did get stuck into that. Hey, you need more, you need more, you need more to make it work. The reality of it is you don't. You need your core. You build your core people who come in, and you hope that you can build a few people per show in the new customer format, and you hope that you bring them in every time subsequently, and hopefully you grow it naturally that way. Do I want a 300 person room count selling jewelry? No. Would I like an 80 to 120? Yes. I still feel like there's the additional dollar or two average per piece once you get up into that 80, 100, especially for what we're doing right now and restarting what we're doing.
Don't even like this.
I will say on the flip side, what? Don't even let Tony see that.
He's messing with you.
Oh my gosh.
Just talk.
I will say that just starting out, and I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, and we'll talk more about this as the show is going on. I will say this: if you are stuck in a 5 to 10 person room count and you've been doing that for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, you should probably look at ways to change it up.
Rewatch your own shows.
Watch your shows. Go back and analyze what you're doing. What can you do better? Unless 5 people in your room and you're making all the money that you want to make. That's entirely possible. I doubt it, but it's entirely possible. But yeah, I fell into the trap of, getting all the followers. And again, I have back end reasons for follower counts and stuff like that. I fell into the trap of bigger rooms. I feel like I can handle 120, 130 person room count and still be personable and entertaining with the people in the room. I haven't, unless it's sudden death, obviously. But I don't believe that I've gotten to a point where that takes away from that entertainment value and keeping that semi cheers environment that you're talking about. I like my core buyers. I like them, and I'd like to build the core buyers. But if Lysandra said it right, if you're not having fun, I'm not gonna have fun. I rely on people in the chat. Throw a few things up there. We can build on that and have a good time with it. You know, so I just I feel like I can still keep that up in a higher room count with the hope of one extra dollar here or there on items. So that's what I have to say to start.
We have Kate. Kate in the chat asked a question. So she says, what percentage of your larger groups actually are bidders? Do you see any correlation between room count and bidding? And from my perspective, I have to answer that. I think it depends what type of show, I have another question to lead on to ask you guys on, but I think it depends what type of show I'm doing. If I see a correlation, because I get my larger numbers, my room count's always higher on my talk shows than they ever are on my selling shows. And then for my selling shows, I would say probably about half the people, and I run anywhere from 40 to 60 on average in a selling show. And probably half, a third to a half are bidders on a regular basis. What about you guys? Are you seeing any correlation? Have you looked at those type of numbers at all?
You went second, Jeremy. Go ahead.
Well, I would definitely say, because the amount of orders I get to be shipped out in comparison to the amount of people coming that are in my room, I also know that means a bunch of people are coming in, throwing a couple bids at something, and leaving. And then when you account for the fact that there are several people, or plenty of people, that had also bid and didn't win anything. So as far as bidders and buyers go, it's actually a pretty large percentage when it's all said and done. Now, I could be colossally different, as a lot of us, well, luckily we all here have done free shipping, and you get a lot of those one item orders from people when you do free shipping. That's a pretty definite aspect of the free shipping on Whatnot. It turns into a ton of single item orders. But again, when I do a show and I'm running 160, 175 people, and I have, 60, 80, and sometimes 100 orders to ship out, that's a large percentage. And then you also add in the amount of people that are bidding, you're actually there at a pretty high percentage. Now, is that going to happen in everybody's room? I think it really depends. I don't think that answer is really going to be the same for any two people in the way they sell here on with live selling. I just want to mention one other thing about the room count, and then I know Tracy, you got something you're ready to kind of start another branch of this conversation off with. I like to make sure. We got lucky at the early phases of Whatnot, and that's gone. However, I can see and understand through the different phases we went through with Whatnot. We started early, we decided to take a break, lost a bunch of momentum, and then when we came back, building from a smaller room count and up, because the way I like to run my shows, I'm very specific. I'm sure everyone's well aware that I have all kinds of rules and things, the way I want things done, and the only way you're going to get a large quantity amount of people in your room to understand that and follow that from week to week, from day to day, is if you start out small and kind of ingrain that into people, and then as you're going. Because at this point in time, somebody says, that thing's worth $400 because I don't allow comps. I don't even have to say anything anymore. There's like 3-4 people that just
100%.
say, hey, he doesn't like comps, and if it seems like it's going to be a problem, I'll say something. Those type of things don't happen unless you start. Like, you couldn't do that very easily if you're right out of the gate with 100 people trying to set rules and regulations and direction, unless you're systematically building that from a low room count on the way on your way up. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because it is notoriously, out there that room count is like a be-all, end-all solution to all kinds of money-making problems for people on here. And it is it's this much of a aspect that you have to be worried about. There's a lot more out there that you need to be working on to increase or be more successful in live selling than your room count. So I'll let you. I'll throw it back there to you, Tracy, because it sounds. I'm curious as to what you're ready to throw out there.
We're going to hold on my question. We'll get to it eventually, but I want to answer the chat's questions first. So, Good Grief says, do you change your pacing, item value, or auction length based on room size? And I think that's an awesome question. I'm going to hold off. Let's see what Tony or Lysandra and Jeremy have to say, and then I'll give my answer on that.
Wait, you go first. You're shaking your head.
We don't.
Wait. Started with I'm looking the wrong way. Started with our experience, and then we can tailor that to newer people.
So, beyond our little Lux at Lunch binge show that we're playing around with, Tony and I are dollar start sellers. Really believe in the dollar start, and we'll get into that later in the show. But we do not change our pacing, item value, or auction length based on our room size. We're dollar starts from the beginning, and like even when I said we changed categories and we're running with a much smaller room size, at first we were running with about 17 people in jewelry. It was dollar starts because at giving that value along with the entertainment is kind of what helped build your room over time with consistency. So and as far as our pacing goes, that has been a learning curve for us, but our goal is to get back to the same pace we were running health and beauty and food in those larger room count shows. We don't change it based off of room count.
I don't think we'll ever get back to the same amount as items per show as health and beauty. Typically for food and health and beauty, we could run 400 items in a show. But a lot of those are duplicate items that as you sell one, you can sudden death subsequent ones back to back, and that saves a lot of time, gets a lot of numbers added into your count. That is much harder to do with jewelry. Almost nothing is exactly the same, right? So no, I don't know that we'll ever get back into the same time frame, the average items per hour, as we did with health and beauty. We were running upwards of 80 to 100 items an hour pretty consistently with health and beauty. Depends on how much I talk in a show. We run anywhere between 35 and 65 items an hour with jewelry. So obviously for pacing, I need to get better with that just for overall sales.
But you're not changing that based off of room count.
No, not off of room count, just knowledge and experience and learning jewelry better. I will say this, but not necessarily, maybe based on room count a little bit. We have started putting items back into our bin for safety's sake, right? Yeah. Am I gonna sell a 100-gram sterling silver necklace and start it at $1 in a room count of 30 or 40 people? Probably not.
But we are starting to discuss dollar starts on sterling. So, but yeah, I guess you are right. But that also goes back into the little thing we're playing with our lunch bin show. So
correct. I mean, we're tailoring the lunch show to be a bin centric show, so it's okay in our mind that we've added those bin items in with the regular show. But yeah, I mean, having that lower count, the lesser of bidders, the lower starting price in the lower end costume jewelry, definitely has an impact for changing some of those items and putting them into the bin. Would I just love to pull a Jeremy and just run everything as dollar starts and just go with it?
Yep.
Sure, wouldn't everybody? But some of that I is on the sourcing side, and you have to be careful with it, right? I'm not paying 40 cents an item for it. I'm paying 70% of scrap coming in the front door. You got to be careful.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my 2 cents real quick.
Whether everyone likes it or not, you're going to be visited by my cats.
It's
Um,
okay.
so the question is spectacular. I love the question. But my answer, do I change my pacing? Not that I'm consciously aware of. Do I change item value? Absolutely not, because I run everything at $1. And auction length, I change that, but it has nothing to do with the room count. That has to do with how I think things are going. You'll hear me tell people they need to wake up. If I think people are sniping, I'll start messing with that. The one thing I will 100% admit to, what changes is what I might be selling, depending on room count. All the other stuff is a no. And I'll admit that that is a colossal mistake on my part. I do that too often, where I'll have, let's say I get a bunch of rings. Like I live sort. So let's just make sure everyone understands that that's how I operate my shows. Almost 99% of them are live sorting, where I don't even know what's going on. I pull out a tray of similar items and I'll start selling them. And I will consciously start noticing, like, the people that aren't interested in the next 20 minutes of me selling rings are going to leave. And even if I'm getting good money for them, I'll have this weird little, need or desire. Like I will find myself succumbing to the influences of the diminishing room count, where I'll be like, all right, I got to start selling something else to get that, which is completely illogical, makes no sense, because all my core buyers and everybody, they're still there, they're still buying, and I'm getting good money for this stuff. I've come to learn that is where paying attention to room count ends up costing you money, because
Absolutely.
time and time again, I will switch. Like, let's say I'm getting what I consider good money for whatever the item is. We'll just go back to my example of rings. I'm selling the rings and I'm getting more than than I'm expecting. I'm happy with it. But I'll have this desire for some reason, again, to switch, because I see the room count going down by 10 or 20 people. And then I'll start selling something else. And then if I come back to the rings, do I get the same prices?
Nothing.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
Not
Almost
only that,
100% of the time.
not only that, Jeremy, but as you switch categories, those people have left. So you risk the lower selling price on the
Oh, yeah.
new category while you're waiting for those people to come back in.
It is 100% a terrible decision that is affected to me. I'm affected by the room count. Even with me knowing how it still happens.
Yep.
You can know everything under the world. You can understand the psychology behind it, the behavioral aspects. You still succumb to it. There's nothing. And that's why, like, sometimes I feel like covering that red dot. I always tell my crew, I'm like, don't pay attention to the room count, pay attention to the dollar amount.
Absolutely.
But I don't get mad at them. I don't get upset, because I fall for it all the time. I catch myself doing it all the time. So
It's funny that you say to cover the dot and that you tell your staff to don't pay attention to it, because I remember as a brand new seller, that was all the advice I kept hearing. Don't look at the number. And I think I've probably given that advice to other people too. So much to the point that I am almost oblivious to the room count. So good grief, trying to answer your question. I don't do anything different based on room count, because I am almost oblivious to it. It's very rare that my eyes even go up to that part of the screen. I don't find out about it till after the show, when my husband and I sit down and kind of debrief our show. And he's like, okay, this is where your numbers were. This is how it went throughout the show. Or he's watching it, and during a show, if he's seeing numbers drop, he's like, okay, switch, or he'll point out an item, or he'll kind of redirect me. So kind of a roundabout way to answer your question. If the room count is something that is like affecting your sales, or something that's really on your mind, you may want to have a partner, have your friend, have a brother, whatever, hang out with you and kind of watch that for you. And you focus on selling, but someone who could redirect or do whatever when necessary. Good Grief also asked the question if there's anything you do different with less than 20. I think we've all kind of answered the question, but I do just kind of want to say, if you are paying attention and you have less than 20, use it to your advantage. Have a plan going in. Look, if I only have 10 people, that's a chance to make more of a connection with these people than you would have if you had 50. Use it to your advantage. Make that connection. Tell those stories. Sell at the same time. Don't just stop and talk. But while you're selling, tell the stories. Talk to them. Make that connection. Use it to your advantage. And those are the people that are going to start forming your base. Those are the ones that are going to be coming back to you time and time again. So.
So I want to add that we do still pay attention to our room count. We're not oblivious to it. And kind of going back and if you're under 20 people, rewatch your shows, figure and really break them down and and what you don't like about it. And maybe you're not even realizing you're doing something that you are. But we pay attention to the room count, but mainly I look for big dips.
Mhm.
Like if we have a 40-person room count and all of a sudden I've lost 12 people, why did I lose those 12 people? And I'll go back into my video receipts and I'll mark down the time I lost those people, and I'll go review the video to see what happened and if there's anything that we did to cause those people to leave like that.
Oh, she's not against chastising me for talking too much and losing 12 to 15 people in the show.
But
She's not against that at all. So
what you're saying, and we're kind of getting a little off topic, which is wonderful because I think this is great information. This is something I preach all the time. You have to analyze what you did. You have to go back and review what's happening in your show. If you're not getting the bids you want, you're not, getting enough people in there, whatever it is, there's a reason. There is some reason, and you're not going to know that reason, like Lysandra says, unless you're rewatching your shows. So, I mean, it's probably some of the most sound advice, and people don't like to, me included. I hate the sound of my voice. I don't like listening to it,
right.
but it's the only way you
I
learn to
hate
get better.
rewatching.
I think Moonsky has a good point, and she says, you're not alone, but honestly, the confidence in my voice pays off. They can read your mood and tone and voice so well. So I think that's one of the things that you guys are hitting on the note. Reviewing your video can hint if you had a change on tone or mood or your behavior change, and that could be a good tattletale.
And if I can just piggyback on that, you mentioned confidence, and this is something I talk about week after week after week. You have to be confident in what you are doing, and if you are not, it will 100% come through to the people in your room. I'm a huge proponent. I'm a little overboard. I'm type A. I get that. I mean, I have a show flow. I know exactly, even if it's written down, my husband and I will sit through. I know exactly what the flow of my show is going to be. We plan it out ahead of time. There's still room to be a little bit, agile in there, depending upon what's happening. But you have to know what's going on in your room. You have to be in control of your room. You have to be in control of your pricing. And you have to be confident about that. If you're wavering in any of those, you will affect the buyer. Their decision, first of all, if they're going to buy and how much then they're going to pay for your item if your confidence isn't there first. That has to be the first thing you bring to any show, is being confident in what you're doing, what you're selling, and what your prices are. There's
If I
got
could throw
on my
something out.
soapbox. Sorry.
No, you're good. That's good. I will also say that in addition to being confident, you have to learn how to read your room. All of these things that we're talking about is reading the room that you have. If you're at 20 people and they, you're getting dollars here, dollars there. If you're doing dollar starts, maybe you switch it up, or you play around with it a little bit and do something different. But even when you have 100 people, you still have to read that room. What is it that's going on in your show at that time that's affecting sales one way or another? What are you doing good? What are you doing bad? What are they working with you in, and what are they enjoying and communicating in the show and playing back and forth if you like that sort of thing? I do, right? I like to bounce back and forth with the audience. But whether you believe it or not, you have to read the room and see what you can do better or stop doing to change up what you're doing.
I agree 100%. I'm going to go back to the confidence a little bit on this one. You have to you have to be confident in what you're doing on this. I agree 100%, because what's going to happen, this happened to us early on. All it takes, especially when you have a small room count, is one person to ask the wrong question that you don't have a way to confidently answer or work your way through in that answer. to derail your entire show.
Yep.
Early on, there's been times when someone just asked a question like, are you allowed to do that? Can you do this? Like when it had to do with like giving away something or whatever, selling a certain item or something. Next thing you know, you're caught up, you're tongue tied, and the confidence that the people have in you like goes to zero, especially when you're really, really tongue tied. I mean, even till this day, you get some of that kind of going on, but the more you're on, the more you practice, the more you get into the groove of things in live selling, it's going to be there. I don't think there's anyone that has the ability to just have full-blown confidence and is good at taking care of those issues that come up right in chat. But stuff like that still happens to me, where you can see the doubt in the crowd that somebody asks, like, give an example, you have a coin and it's not a clean coin. If anybody knows, if you clean a coin that's, has numismatic value, it has value, it goes down in value. So if you have a really pristine, the first thing people are going to do is start asking if it's clean or demand or saying that it's cleaned just to try to depreciate the value. And if you're not confident in what you're saying, when you're telling the people this is absolutely not cleaned, if you give any doubt to that, you're going to get a fraction of the value out of that item. And subsequent items after that, like anything you run that's even correlated to that. Anytime you run coins for the rest of that show, you're going to get lower valuations out of it just because of the way you interacted with that person when they don't even have to ask a question, just making that statement. So you want 100. I can't agree more with the aspect that you have to be able to be confident in what you're doing, the way you're running, how you're running your show, the rules you lay down, everything you do. Is very reliant on the way you project that confidence as well. So just 100% in agreement with that.
Do you guys think the scan shows come from lack of confidence?
Yes. Well, no. I think it's a part of it. I think it is a part of it. I think it's a factor. And that's fine. If you're trying to get yourself confident,
I feel like it comes off as not being confident. That's how I perceive it when I come into a show and they're just like scanning a table, like, let me know if you want me to run anything. It's perceived to me that you're not confident enough to just pick up an item and run it and talk about it. I don't know.
I think those scan shows are more about the seller can't handle the rejection of an item not selling.
In
They
that
don't want-
confidence?
Yeah, they don't. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
They're
In
too
a way,
afraid of
right?
being salesmen.
I mean,
they
there's-
don't want to be
there-
salesmen-y, is what it
Yes.
is.
Yeah, I think that, I'm going to run this item and it's not going to sell. It's like, oh, okay, well, now what do I do? And after 2 or 3 of those, they don't know what to run. So it's like, okay, what do you want? And we've done that scan show in the grocery store that one time. And while it was a fun show, it was
horrid. It was horrid.
And I will never do that again.
I want to
anyway.
I want to just make a quick point because we're talking about the confidence, and this is something, Jeremy, that I actually learned from you, and I'm not sure if you meant to pass this along or not, but confidence doesn't mean knowing everything about your product. It doesn't mean
100%.
it's how you present it. I've watched Jeremy multiple times showing something like, hey, you all know what this is. You know what it's worth. Bid accordingly, dollar start, let's go. And that's something I've picked up on. I mean, I'll get things, and for the most part, I know what things are that I'm selling, but sometimes I'm like, this may be worth $1 million. It may be worth a penny. I don't know. You do. Here you go. Dollar start, bid on it.
I like how he explains the glow. I love his glow explanation.
Yes.
Well,
So it's not always knowing every little detail about what you're selling, but it's how you present. It's what you're bringing to the table in that confidence.
Yeah. And just to say that, I mean, that's a confidence that everybody can appreciate, because when you say it confidently, they truly believe you. And you basically are saying, I'm not going to yell at you or get mad at you if it sells for cheap.
Yeah.
Which is something that people experience. So it just creates a comfort, in my opinion, when you can do that confidently, but it's, I mean, we've all witnessed it. We all witness people that are just purely confident, just through sheer, positive, attributes, internalized on themselves and being confident, that they just succeed beyond what lots of other people do. I mean, we all know it, we all see it, and it's beyond. You're like, I just don't understand. And the only difference between the two is enthusiasm and confidence. And somebody might have the exact same items, trying to sell it exactly the same way, doing everything but the only determining factor that's different is the confidence that came across in the way the
way
person
it's presented.
presented it.
Yep.
So
In terms of the scanning shows, I think there might be a place in time where there might be acceptable, not necessarily beneficial, but acceptable. I watch a couple of other shows that deal with Star Wars collectibles, and then sometimes what they do is they run certain things that they have already thought through that they're going to run, and then after a while, what they do is they take a little bit of time, they scan their collection, and then people start asking for more. So there might be a chance, depending on the room count and the dynamic.
I think when it's used strategically, I think there's a way to do not a scan show per se, but a scan that's part of the strategic selling kind of thought through plan. Like, I mean, we're not set up. I've never done any type of scan. We're just not set up for it. But like, maybe looking around a warehouse but not like, do you want me to run it? Do you want me to run it? It's more like, hey folks, look what's coming up. That type of thing. That's creating that FOMO and that interest, which to me is different than a scan show.
Oh yeah, I use that same principle.
Yeah.
The warehouse walks always did
The
well.
warehouse walks always did really well. You know, it showed people all the inventory there. Even at the beginning of shows, you know, here's a quick scan. This is what's coming up through the show. Here's 4 or 5 boxes of stuff. Here's 5 or 6 trays of jewelry. Here's the boxes of random stuff we're going to sort through and show. Yeah. That 100%, but that's not a scan show. And the people that rely on those scans to get some interest and what's next.
I think it's killing the interest.
Yeah, it kills the interest. I
It
agree
does,
100%. As soon as I see that happen, I'm gone. I'm always gone. I don't care what you're selling. I can't sit through it.
So
am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You
never
left for
left.
a second.
You
For
blipped
me, you
for a
did,
moment.
yeah. Real quick, just for those of you who may be new, I see a lot of familiar names in the chat, but some of you are new. Cheryl, you're new to me, so welcome. I am Tracy from Zoe's Treasures. To answer your question, we do vintage decor and jewelry, but Zoe's Treasures is a lot smaller scale. We're very niche. So I do shows that run about an hour, hour and a half on vintage decor with a very hand-picked, curated show. So I am not a volume seller. And I'll let Jeremy and Tony and Lysandra give a really quick, their brief history of what they do for everybody who's new.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm Jeremy. With Green 13. No, yeah, I'm with Green 13. If you don't know, we're 100%. I do live sort. It's the fundamentals of my business are live sorting, dollar starts, and volume. That's the 3 simple breakdowns of what we do. And when I say live sorting, I like to, is in every way possible, make it a truly live sorting where I don't even know. I've gotten to the point where I source in accordance with trying to make sure the amount that I know about what's in the items, in the boxes and the stuff I purchase is minimal. Open up the box, look, see the stuff on the top, and that's the extent that I know. So as soon as I open a box live or pull stuff out, you're seeing it, pretty much the same as I'm seeing it. So those are my fundamental principles of sales for live selling on whatnot. So
You do it.
you
We are pretty much the same as Jeremy. We want it to be a volume selling game for us. We want to have fun what we're doing. We want the people in there to have fun what we're doing, but we do dollar starts and we run it as much as possible. I do.
Except breakables. I want a volume sell breakable.
No. But as far as how we started with whatnot, with health and beauty, went into adding groceries into our repertoire for selling, because we had the grocery stores. Those were volume selling, dollar starts, and now we're rolling that same principle into jewelry, costume, and hopefully better soon. But it's about volume. If you don't source well enough to sell at dollar starts, then you're not ready for volume. And there you go.
Not necessarily.
Wait a
I
minute.
think Tracy
I
is
disagree.
proof in the pudding. The pudding.
The
Sorry.
pudding.
Tracy is proof in the pudding that you don't necessarily have to be volume in the grand scheme of things to do dollar starts, and she just limits that with her hour and a half long
Yep.
shows.
Well,
Sorry.
that
You
and
can
let,
talk.
But it's
yeah,
but
let's
it's not
talk
volume,
about it.
right? I mean,
It's not
it's not.
volume, but I think that's what Lysandra's saying. You don't have to be volume to do dollar starts. And
Mm-mm.
Correct.
we knew we were probably going to end up at this point in the conversation at some time, but
You're welcome.
thank you, Tony. Me, that was smooth. All right, so sorry, my husband, as usual during shows, is distracting me over there. So would you expand on dollar starts? Absolutely. So this is the difference between us. Me not being the volume seller, I do firmly believe in dollar starts. I went to a completely dollar start model, I don't know, 10 months ago for my vintage decor. So every vintage decor show I do is dollar starts, except for one. Well, that's kind of an oddball. We'll talk about it later. But I have to look at it though, since I can't buy in volume. I don't buy thousands of pieces at a time. I sell about 100 to 150 pieces a week. I don't consider that volume. And what I do is when I'm sourcing, I have a certain dollar threshold that I can't go over, and it's dependent on the amount of risk. So when I'm looking at items, either hand picking them, like I go to antique stores and hand pick items to sell, or I'm buying at auction a lot. When I'm doing that, I'm calculating the cost in my head, and there's a certain dollar amount, and I'm looking, can I reasonably expect these items bid up to cover my cost, to cover my cost of goods and my fees and everything else, and make some profit. So I have like some boundaries that I have kind of set for my sourcing that, depending upon the item, they need to be under a certain dollar amount for me to be comfortable starting them at $1. 9 times out of 10, that's fine. I'll do a show. I have 50 to 80 items per show, never really much more than that. Does every single thing, is every single item a profit maker? No, but you can't look at it on each individual item. That's the key when you're doing dollars. It's not item by
Right.
item. I'm looking at across those 50 to 80 items. And again, it all goes back to the sourcing. I have to know my stuff up front. I've got to be on my game when I'm sourcing if I'm going to then look at the averages at the end of the show and make profit. The only kind of rules outside of that for myself, jewelry, we do differently. We've just gone into the jewelry niche just in the last 2 months. So that's still a developing thing for me. The only time I do not do vintage decor at $1 is when I do reverse auctions. There is some vintage or antique pieces I buy. I don't have the risk tolerance. I pay a certain dollar amount. My risk level is not there yet to start them at $1. Will it be in the future? Maybe, but right now they're not. So those items in particular, usually about 40 items every 6 weeks, are reserved for a special show. But I've also been working on that show, time and time again, where people now are expecting it and they know that that's not $1 show. So I'll leave it at that and get your guys' response.
My only response is just commenting that it is so refreshing sourcing with Tracy. I've gotten the pleasure of doing it a couple times, but this woman looks up nothing. She picks something up. She's like, "Yeah, that fits the criteria. It's less than so much money. It's small. It'll fit in this box, and it looks cute, and I think it'll sell." And she buys it, and I love that because Tony is in my mentality when sourcing, coming from static platform sites, is we look up everything,
100%.
and she saves so much time by not doing that. And it's just, I enjoy watching the process.
Thank you. I do
Yeah,
want to just
getting
real quick. Sorry, Jeremy. Can I jump in
that's
real
fine.
quick? I just wanted to
Sure.
touch on something because when I first went to Dollar Starts, I actually jumped on the bandwagon of Dollar Starts after watching Jeremy's shows for quite a while. And Tony and Lysandra were on Dollar Starts. And I'm like, and there's a few others. I was studying people within the vintage decor niche. There was like 3 or 4 main sellers in that niche or in that category that were doing Dollar Starts. And they intrigued me from day one. And I would watch them and watch them. And I'm like, what's their secret sauce? What are they doing to make this work? Because at the very beginning of my reselling journey, like I couldn't figure this out. I'm like, I'm a CPA, I'm a numbers person. I'm like, there's no way I'm paying $10 for something and going to start it at $1. Like I was too caught up in the individual, each individual item. So I would watch and watch and watch. So when I first did it, I was blown away. That was part of where I felt my Whatnot world, my journey kind of took a turn. That was the first time that I felt like I was getting headway and making progress as a seller on Whatnot, was when I went to dollar starts. I was doing dollar starts, reduced shipping, I think at like $9.21. It wasn't anything, super drastic. And I was getting more people in my room. Things were getting bid up. Now it took a while. It took a while, at the very first few shows, things were selling for $1. But soon as kind of like the word got out or people got used to it and they knew it wasn't a one-time thing, they knew they can count on me for that. I started getting more people in my room. The bids were increasing. And it was the first time ever I was having sold out shows. Every single show was a sold out show. And it got to the point where I'm like, wow, this is great. And I kind of just got caught up in the whole rush of it. And I quickly realized that when you have sold out shows, you got to source a whole lot more. You got to bring more stuff in and more stuff in. And I had to back off. I got to the point where I'm like, wait a minute, I can't do dollar starts because I can't keep up with the sourcing side of it. So I had to, for those of you who don't know, I have a 9-to-5 job too. Whatnot is not my full time. So I just in life, as many other people have other constraints. So I had to back off dollar starts for a while and rethink it. I had to come back to it and say, I'm a firm believer in the dollar starts, but how do I make it work for my business? I'm not going to be that volume seller. That's not where I'm at right now. So, I had to take the approach of, okay, well then I'm going to do a curated show. I have to sell the fact that I'm not going to be here 4 hours from now. I have 50 to 80 items and this is all you're getting. Don't go anywhere, stay here and bid. I had to really make people understand, and it took quite a few shows, that this wasn't like, oh, I can, sit around and look at some, vintage decor items and then I'll come back 2 hours later. So I'm just a firm believer that it works, but you have to really think it through from your business perspective. And that it's not always just like show and go. It's not this fast, liquidate type thing where you can do dollar starts. So. Sorry, there you go. A lot of words.
Jeremy's been quiet for way too long.
I know.
Go, Jeremy, go.
So we're talking start prices and specifically dollar starts. So what I like that we're talking about here is one of the reasons why I'm really glad we did this with multiple perspectives, different people, different levels, in different times in their live selling businesses, is that dollar starts can be for everybody. It's just depending on how you decide to apply it. And Tracy, you're a prime example of that, because you did it, you realized the problem. You don't want to be a volume seller, but you still understand there's a fundamental value to dollar starts. And for anybody that's exploring during dollar starts, you guys kind of talked about it a little bit, even from your sourcing perspective. Tracy, you do the same thing I do. One of the biggest things that helped me with sourcing and finding enough, if you want to be a volume player, if that's your desire, and even if you're not volume player, is that what Lysandra was talking about, that you don't look and you just like you use your gut instincts on items. Like I buy large quantities that way. And then coupled with the getting the merchandise you need in order to sell them at dollar starts, I'm a volume seller. Okay. So I buy large quantities. Dollar starts is the only way I see my way getting through all this merchandise, because it guarantees the item's going to get sold. But in the end, when you're done buying your merchandise and when you're doing things like dollar starts or low starts, you have to change your perspective on your sales. And that comes with the same thing. When you're looking at every single item, that you're immediately having a base price and expected value to it. So every item you're selling, then you're creating a potential loss aversion or a pain of a potential loss whenever it doesn't bring what you paid for it or what you were hoping to get for it. And in the end, what you really need to be able to have your brain trained towards in order to do things like dollar start is, instead of looking at your per item basis sales, you got to look at the entirety of what you shelled out for what you sold during that sale and what you took in. So basically your costs and your profits as a result of the show as an entirety. And as soon as you can train your brain and get into that mode, I'm going to tell you, sky's the limit. Okay. And it all comes with doing dollar starts, sourcing in those ways where you start instinctively sourcing. I don't know a better term, but you're basically going by gut and your experience. And I know not everyone has that, but they have it to a certain degree. And the more you utilize that, and it all comes together with taking advantage of the dollar starts, in my opinion. You guys, you heard me say, I would start at -$5 and 10. If they let me do a negative start, I would, because I'm a firm believer in, the endowment effect. And
Could you imagine the first person that got it for -$5 and you had to give them $5 back
And free shipping.
and free shipping? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Tony's like, I'm in. Let's do it.
I gotta try that.
I would 100% go. Like, if they let me start things at a penny, I would. I was doing that right out of the gate over on eBay.
Oh, yeah, you found out eBay Live had penny starts. You're like, let's go.
Let's try that.
I want to add on, if you're smaller and you're thinking about doing dollar starts, or you have tried them and you're still finding that the bids aren't quite getting to the prices you need them to, try to think outside the box.
100%.
I'm going to throw out an example of our earring shows. We don't necessarily do live digs like Jeremy does. We've done a couple, but for the most part, we take our lots and we categorize them out. We have ring shows, earring shows, necklace and bracelet shows, and the earrings are always 100% underperforming in our shows. And almost to a point on dollar starts, we were finding that they were a waste of time. Like, I just wanted to throw them in the craft shows and be done with them. And I know Jeremy's employees hate earrings too. They just, yes, whatever. So Tony, so we first tried to do like a choice, like put 6 pairs of earrings up, and everybody's bidding on their choice of one pair, and that went okay. But we still weren't happy with it after a while. So then Tony came up with this kind, almost like a sliding scale. Is that what you
Yeah.
would call it?
Sure.
And basically, if the bid got to a certain price, then you got 2 pairs. If the bid hit $5, you got to pick 2 pairs out of the 6. And if the bid hit $10, you swept the board and you got all 6 pairs. It's showing a lot of promise even after just 2 shows.
Yeah.
So think outside the box sometimes to raise your bid. I mean, the entertainment factor and getting your chat involved in the show is monumental, even more so than the room count.
Yeah.
That's all I really had.
And
I
I'll
want
just
to.
piggyback on that a little bit. Sorry, Tracy.
No,
Let me
go
just
for it.
piggyback
Yeah.
a little bit. Your show is ever evolving. Ever. I mean, every single show, you should be trying something different. You at some point you have to keep it fresh.
Mhm.
Your core audience is only going to listen to the same stuff over and over again for so long.
And if you have a good idea, there's going to be other sellers that copy it.
Yep.
100%.
So you've got to be on top of it and constantly evolving your strategy.
I mean, Jeremy started going off on free shipping, and Lysandra's like, "Hey, we need to do free shipping." I'm like,
Yep.
"Okay." Again, you have to try new things. So we'll steal it from Jeremy. Let's go. And it's not necessarily stealing, but you have to try things different. And maybe you can't think of an idea or something to do differently. This is where your market research goes into play, right? You're going into shows in your category and outside of your category, and pulling little snippets from everybody. Always. Why not? If you think you can incorporate something in your show to make it better, fantastic. And I apologize. Most of this conversation tonight has been specific to Whatnot. I know we can talk about other platforms as much, but this is where we all live, is Whatnot. So from the Whatnot perspective, you should always be trying to incorporate things to set yourself apart, make it more exciting for people, and with the end game of the topic of the show, bringing more people into your room.
Yep.
There you go.
Lysandra mentioned if you're just starting with dollar starts, and I want to add on an additional thought to what she said, is that I can't hear myself. Okay. Something's wrong with the. Okay. Sorry, is totally lost my train of thought for the 5th time tonight. When you're thinking about dollar starts, one of the things I see that a lot of sellers, this is where they miss the mark on dollar starts. They look at their inventory and they say, oh, I'm going to take all my clearance, all my crap, basically.
Mm-mm.
And that's what they're going to sell for $1. Well, if you're trying to sell
Doesn't work.
if you're trying to sell a piece of crap for $1, guess what you're going to get? $1. That's all. So, and then they go and then they say, oh, well, dollar starts don't work for me. All I made was $1. Look at it from the buyer's perspective. You got to take yourself out of the seller's chair and go sit in the buyer's chair. Not only are you asking $1, but most of you are asking $9.21 for shipping. That's a $10 item to that buyer. That value of that item better be at least $10. And more if you want it bid up. So you can't just sell your crap for $1. If you want to make $1 start a real part of your business strategy, then you need to bring good value items too. And I'm not talking that you have to bring $300 swung vases, but you have to bring items of some value in order to make dollar starts really work in a long-term process.
And Jack
Hey,
Strishers,
we watched several shows. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Noah.
Jack Strishers has a good point to what you were talking, Tony. He said that we attempted to run bundle show thinking that it was inventory that wouldn't be desired, and they wind up selling it out. So it never hurts to just start running and bundling instead of wasting time. So talking about the different types of the strategies.
If you're okay with bundling and it fits into your profit margin, fine. I mean, why wouldn't you?
And Millicent's, I'm just going to answer Millicent's. That's not necessarily true. If that show and that show format continues to grow and draws in more people, naturally the bids will get higher.
Now, don't get me wrong, Millicent. There were, I think we swept the board, 19 times in that show. There were 4 or 5 that did bid themselves up to get to the $10.
Yeah.
There were 100%. But once it hits over $5, why wouldn't you?
And I'll admit it, because I talked to Millicent afterwards. That whole show was about fee avoidance on dollars.
Yeah, it really was. It really was.
But that makes sense. We have another question. Do you
Yes.
recommend a new seller to participate in community category to get discovered? I have thoughts, but let's
Me too.
Jeremy,
Go
do you
ahead.
have thoughts?
That's a shift from the start price stuff, but
It is a big shift.
that's a big shift. What was the question again? Because I was ready to start talking about start prices and dollar starts again.
Oh,
But what was
okay.
the question?
Well, go on with dollar starts, and then we'll come back to it.
No,
We'll
no,
do-
no, no. That's
okay.
all right. What's the question?
Do you-
The start. I can guarantee you, we'll be coming back to start prices.
Oh, we will.
100%.
Yeah,
Times doing
100%.
Let's just spend it if you
Series.
want to expand it.
Yeah, it says, do you recommend a new seller to participate in community category to get discovered?
No,
No.
and I'm going to tell you
I
why.
know,
You
I wanna hear
guys
it.
know 100%. It's foundational. You set expectations. If you want to set expectations as being a seller, sell stuff. If you want to set expectations as being someone that just talks to people, then go talk. But don't get upset when you decide to cross over. If you decide to become a community person that's on here and then go to selling, you're not going to get people buying. That's why you see very frequently there's a lot of people that go into community category and then they go over and they're selling and their rooms are a fraction of what the community category is. You got to do it the other way around. If you want people to come into the community category for you, you got to have some legitimacy behind your capabilities of selling on here and have something to back your statements up and what you're talking about. If you're just going into community just to gain followers, it's no different than running giveaways during your show, in my opinion. You're just getting fluff. You're not getting what's core to your business principles and models and how you want to build from a foundational perspective. And you're on here to sell. If that's your goal, to be on here and sell, you need to get on here and sell. That's all there is to it.
I'm actually going to tie that back to the question earlier about how many bidders correlating to room count and all that fun stuff. because I think it really ties into Jeremy specifically of how many other sellers specifically go into Jeremy's shows just to watch him learn, um, because of his chat shows. And I don't feel that any person I met through my chat shows has become like a large buyer. Have they bought off of me? Yes.
Yeah.
Many of the people that I've met through my chat shows have bought in or selling shows. But I don't know that any of them correlated to a big percentage of my sales.
Or long-term relationships of
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to that for a second. Even if you do get that, the only way you're going to get that is if they can come into your room and see that you have the credentials to be saying what you're saying in the chat show.
Yes.
They'll come in and they'll stay in your room longer for them to potentially bid. So trying to do this the community show first, it's just backwards. You're not going to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish. Again, it just, you do the selling first, do the chat show later. And then, yes, can the chat show benefit you a little bit? Like you guys said, you wouldn't have been in my room at all if it wasn't for the chat show, right?
Yeah, I met you through your chat show first.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big buyer in your room, and I don't think Tracy is. But I'm in your room a lot, watching.
Yeah.
But again, you wouldn't, if I would have had a chat show and then you came into my room and you're like, why on earth, are you on here talking about how to sell? And it seems like you're not getting anything accomplished here. You're not going to buy anything from me. You're just going to have a negative association to my selling them, which is my ultimate goal. And I don't want you to come over into my selling environment because of what I said during the chat show and be disappointed in my selling environment.
Right.
That's great that you liked what I had to say, but I'd rather you like what I'm doing and selling, because that's what I'm here to do. I do my chat shows and I'm 100% transparent. I do it because I enjoy it. And
Now,
I'd like to flip side that. Go ahead, Tracy. You go ahead.
As I say, I have a completely different point of view on chat shows. So, one, if you're brand new, I don't think you have any business doing a chat show, because you need to learn what you're doing first, just plain and simple.
Yes, please.
I've gone into newbies chat shows and I'm like, you're giving misinformation. You're not looking at terms of service. So one, if you're brand spanking new, hopefully it's not a seller support show, because you need to figure it out for yourself first before you can be telling other people. Now, the other side of that is, I am a fan of community shows in the sense that it's part of my business model. It's part of the strategy that I've set up. But I don't do it from a seller support perspective. I do it from an area of expertise. I'm a CPA with 30 years of experience, and that's what I bring. My selling shows this year, it's a huge focus for me. And the things we have planned and the things we're doing within my morning tax and business show every Friday morning is making a good chunk of money in my overall revenue projections. So I'm not against it if it's used strategically. I think if you do it right, if you have a real expertise that you can bring, and there's a lot of different expertise. Mine happens to be tax and accounting. I get 80 people at 7 a.m. on a Friday morning to come learn about tax and accounting, and that's almost kind of crazy to me that many people want to listen to that topic at that time, but they do. So if you have an expertise that you could build as part of your strategy and business, by all means, I think it's a good thing. If you're just doing it to get followers and you're brand new, you're wasting your time.
I want to add in on community chats. If the community part of Whatnot is very important to you, community chats could be a great thing for you. I've met the best friends that I have on this app were met through community shows. I met Tracy in a tax seller support that she did over a year ago. I met Jeremy through his chat shows. I'm fairly certain I met Millicent through Jeremy's chat shows. And Daisy Lane, all the people that and Aaron, the Aaron Sphere met us through my chat show, and all these people that I enjoy the best on the app, I met through chat shows. So I will add that in, not necessarily helping you sell stuff, but if that's something that you really enjoy about the app, chat shows could be good for you.
Ultimately, I think is that when it comes to the chat show, they should be a secondary priority. And like Tracy's talking about, if you have some way to build it into your business system, but I don't think it's a way to get started. I think the question was
No.
kind of around
no.
like, like, should I go do that to help? You need to get established in some form
Hmm.
on Whatnot. And then if that's an avenue you think you can utilize to leverage to your benefit. And you got to realize I'm always talking from the business perspective. I'm not the community aspect. I love the community aspect is spectacular, but for me, it goes business and then community. And some people it's the other way around, which is perfectly fine. But I think ultimately the purpose of this is to sell stuff and have the combination of community, which makes it the best, in my opinion, so far, the best selling opportunity and platform that's ever been around has been Whatnot for us.
Absolutely.
And live selling in general, I think, whether it's going to stay Whatnot, I don't know. But either way, live selling in general is going to be here to stay. And I think it's going to continue to be a colossal part of our business model. But you still have the community, but still, for me, top business, then community. So.
Tracy, do you have an answer for Crystal's question before we get back to dollar starts? I'm fairly certain that category is not specific to you as a seller in your whole account. It's
Yeah.
specific to your show.
Yeah.
Tony and I started health and beauty. We're doing jewelry shows, but you select the category per show. It's not as your account as a whole.
I agree with you. I wouldn't give another answer than that.
Okay. So Jeremy, what did you have to say about dollar starts?
I don't
Do you remember?
No. I was piggybacking off of something that we just went off
Sorry.
on this, that, and the other thing. So, but I mean, you guys know I can sit here and talk all day about dollar starts and the values that I perceive to have with them. Now, if you want me to just start rambling about dollar starts right now, I'm more than happy to, unless there's something else we want to talk about before I go into that some more.
So I would like to say, Tracy, what is your reasons? You've been playing around with jewelry and not doing dollar starts. Tony and I have been putting our precious metals in the bin and then playing with a glass bin show at lunch. So what's your reasons for not doing dollar starts on jewelry?
There's a couple reasons. One, it's a startup for me. We invested a lot to start up a niche in jewelry. And I have 3 main sources of jewelry, 2 of which I could probably start at dollar start comfortably with a little hesitation, but I could get there. One of the sources that we have is just high-end jewelry. To me, it's kind of like my reserve auction items. I've put too much cost into it. I'm not comfortable with the risk that it's going to get bid up. I don't have the following in jewelry yet, and not necessarily following. I don't want to say followers equal bidders. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but I don't feel like I'm established enough to take that amount of risk on my high-end sterling. Like I said, so I've been really researching and not researching, but thinking through my strategy on pricing. We're 3 shows in. We've tried 3 kind of different things. We're nailing it down. I'm just not quite at dollar starts yet with it. I don't feel that I'm going to get the money back. I feel like I'm going to take a loss with that at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And there we circle back to confidence.
Yep.
She's not
We
confident it's going to
are.
happen.
I'm not.
So-
You got me. Yes. 100%.
And I'm just going to go out on the limb here and say, if you're even remotely close to comfortable selling that other jewelry that you said you could have $1, you know me, I'm going to tell you should jump in and start doing it.
And just go.
But
should.
and that's speaking from personal experience. When I started on this app, I wasn't in jewelry at all. I've been through all this, the struggle between prices, the loss, the pain of the loss of things I know I spent $40 for and it sold for $10. It's nothing that happens overnight. The mentality that needs to change in your brain in order to be willing to run things at $1, which again, I'm going to go back to sourcing here, is one of the reasons why I source the way I do, because it helps ease my dollar start selling with that confidence, because I don't know what I paid for it. I know what I paid for the entire pile, but I don't know what I paid for each individual item.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I can tell you right now, I'm not, I succumb to the loss aversion like everybody else does, because if I buy a pile of rings and I pay X amount per ring and I know what I paid per ring, I can tell. I can feel myself selling when they're not bringing what I want. It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that my attitude, my confidence sinks, and so does the dollar amount.
Yeah.
It
I,
just starts going down with it.
yeah, I've done a few. So in every jewelry show we've done so far, been playing with dollar starts. I've had 4 to 8 items I've done dollar starts on, kind of feeling the water out, trying to see where are they going to go. And there's been some nice stuff. There's been some valuable things that we've done for $1. And I think part of my hesitation is I haven't been happy with the result of that. But again, too, I got to take my own advice. I wasn't looking at the full picture. So we'll get there.
So I know this is a different, and people have heard me say this stuff all the time. You guys don't care if I go into like the fun dollar start principles that I buy, that I,
No, great
so
topic.
just real quick, okay? Early on and whatnot, the reason I got into the dollar start is when we were running items and whatnot. We started out like everybody else. You're concerned about dollar starts. You're doing $3 and $5 starts or trying to find your way through. And this is, in May, it'll be 5 years we're on whatnot. When I decided, and I give this as a suggestion to everybody, when they're selling on there, if they, are running something and it doesn't sell at your $3 or $5 start price, or that's what you did, just throw it up there for $1. See what happens. Rerun it for $1. That's what I did. And over 80% of the time, that's on the light side. I think on, the majority of the time in any set auction, I would say it's more like 90% of the time, it would go for more than what my initial start price was.
Absolutely.
So I was like, okay, now I'm going to start trying this. I'm going to start doing dollar starts and see what happens. Now it had its roller coaster, like everything does. You have the hey, I'm doing dollar starts, and my core base was like, oh, you don't do dollar starts, so this is a treat. This is something special. Anytime that happens and you create an event out of it, you're going to get more money. And then the event effect starts wearing down. However, the nice thing is all the other attributes, continuation in room count, continuation in expanding in buyers and bidders, which obviously is going to happen because you've lowered that threshold of entry that you like to talk about, Tracy. $1 and free shipping eventually is what we came full circle, ended up at for a good majority of our items. But the principle behind this, I'm going to get to the main principles. I forget what the guy, I think it was Richard Thaler or Thaler, I remember something along those lines, was the guy that did the study on auction theory and the endowment effect. Okay, he won a Nobel Prize for it, so it's not hokey pokey information, the stuff that and it's been utilized to the extent on auction sites to tens, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of sales utilizing these principles. And you're talking, they utilize these in government contract auctions and everything. Is the loss aversion principle tied to the endowment effect? And if you want to know what that is, whether you don't, I'm going to tell you anyway. Anytime in an auction somebody bids on something, it creates an element of ownership. That's the endowment effect. Okay. As soon as you own something, the loss aversion effect kicks in. And if you understand the principles of loss aversion, a loss hurts way more than a gain feels good. So the fact that you don't want to lose something once you already own it, you have a tendency to want to bid on it again. The more opportunities you give somebody to bid on something and create that element of ownership. That's why I said I'd go into the negative $5, $10, because that just increases the elements of endowment effect. And it's
Everybody bid at -5.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Everybody.
So every time someone bids on something or has an opportunity to bid on it, and especially, they don't even have to win it. It creates an element very similar. If you swipe and try to win something and don't get a chance, you're like, darn it, I missed it. I'm going to get out, so you're immediately right after that next bid trying to get in. And as soon as you do, you have an element of ownership. And we all know when you own something, guess how you perceive the value? Anything you own, you're going to, when you go to comp anything that's yours personally, you're using top comp valuations. When you're like, hey, this is worth $300 when it might be worth $250, but you're using top comps because it's yours. Your brain does the same thing. So that just it creates a recipe for value that keeps going up. And I know people are like, oh, just start at $3 or $4 or $5. It is not the same. You start things at $1, those few extra bids 100% get you the extra $3. Like, let's say those few bids get you an extra average of $1 or $2 a show. on, on any said item, when you're doing volume like us, that turns into hundreds to thousands of dollars a show. And you do volume where you're running every single day, it doesn't take long to realize the math adds up. And it's principle based, it's found to be true. And we're going to go back to confidence. You have to be comfortable and confident in running things at $1, or it will not be effective for you. It's not going to. Same thing with free shipping. When you have that fear that something's going to sell for under a certain value or it's not going to bring anything, you have to be comfortable. You have to be okay with something getting knocked down. Like today, I was talking before we went on, I did $1 start and I sold the cheapest piece of Weiss jewelry I ever sold. Knowing that it was Weiss, and I sold plenty for $1 or two, not realizing what it was. But you have to be comfortable in just telling the person they got a great grab. And here's the other beauty. When that happens, when you start things at $1 and someone grabs something for $4 or $5 that should have sold for 20, 30, or 40 bucks, for some reason it translates also into additional bins on the next two or three items. I've seen it happen over and over and over again, where somebody snags something for $1, and for some reason the next item brings $4, $6, $8 more than I was expecting it to bring. And I don't know if it's that one. I'm going to have to do some research, but I've noticed that over and over again. So there's just too many aspects to and elements. And I'll touch on more of those as we continue this entire podcast. But that fundamental principle, you have to, if you're the type of person that reads in order to get that confidence, go read. Just go type in Google, look up endowment effect, loss aversion, and use the word auction. And you can go do the research on your own to help build your confidence, which will definitely in turn, I think, pay dividends for you when you decide to adopt it. And when you adopt it, do it slowly. I don't say go in and just start doing $1 starts. Do it the same way we did it. Just experiment with something that doesn't sell for $5, that you started for $5. Just have fun and just, if you're having a good show, just tell everybody, hey, I've been having a great show. Instead of running the giveaway, we're going to do a couple $1 starts, knock it out, and pay attention to what your end value ends up being. And I think over the long term, actually, I know if you do it and stick with it over the long term, you're going to end up being surprised, and it's going to turn you into a $1 start believer. So
I just pinned it in the chat, Jeremy.
Yeah.
And you were correct. It's Richard Thaler.
it is? Okay. Yeah. All right. It's been a little while, so didn't remember who it was.
Good Grief asked, would you recommend $1 starts and discounted shipping for new sellers trying to gain traction? I'll give a really quick answer. So I don't know if you can do right now. Whatnot has some restrictions. So I don't know how new you are, but Whatnot's restricting
The reduced shipping.
reduced shipping, discounted shipping. $1 starts. I mean, Jeremy just explained it all to you right there. So I think that kind of answered that. If you should do $1 starts and how to start with that. As soon as you can do discounted and/or free shipping, I think both are wonderful. But the accounting side of me says, know your numbers first. Do some shows at regular shipping. Learn how to do it. Learn what it cost you. Do, a handful of shows, 5, 10 shows. Really understand what that cost is and make sure that that's something that you can either build into your pricing or absorb in some other way. When I first started doing free shipping, I cut back on other things. It's not like I had all this money I could just start paying shipping for. I quit doing giveaways. I pulled back on some of my other marketing. Mm-hmm. So I took money I was spending in other places and put it towards free shipping, and it paid off tremendously.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up on that. You hear me saying a lot, you need to know your numbers. And, I don't need to tell an accountant that that's the case, but you won't know whether that is paying off for you unless you know your baseline. And the way you're going to know your baseline is to do things with full shipping, full prices, and run into once you find your comfort zone, I like to call it, where you're okay, I can see the potential that Whatnot has for me or live selling has for me, and you start selling. That's when you start experimenting with $1 starts, this reduced shipping and all that kind of stuff. Because if you just go right out of the gate that way, you're not going to know if it's paying what it's doing for you. If you don't have numbers to start with, you're not going to know if it's being profitable, if it's turning out in any way, shape, or form positive. I get a little worried that there are so many people, and I think this goes with the giveaways and everything, where everyone gets ahead of themselves, where they're like, oh, to gain traction, to get more people in my room, or to get more bids or whatever. You don't even know if any of that's beneficial if you don't know your numbers before. And like Tracy said, you need to get sales on and items sold under your belt, and numbers of a baseline. If you don't have that, you don't have anything to work with. You don't have anything to bounce off of to realize any real value or not.
I'm just going to ask a good grief, what's your goal? I mean, if your goal is not to be a high volume, I mean, you could run it in a format like Tracy and 100%. I'm a dollar start seller. We've done we're playing around with the binge shows because I don't want to do that in volume, even at Tracy's level with breakables and glass. But we did vintage for 2 weeks with $3 starts because Tony refused to do dollar starts, and I hated every minute of it.
Mm-hmm.
Hated it. Hated $3 starts. I really enjoy knowing that pretty much whatever I put on screen is being sold that night. And maybe that's a confidence thing too, that I don't like to. And actually, with the binge shows on days that I don't sell anything, I get very frustrated with it. So maybe that also comes back to confidence for me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
I don't know if it's all confidence. I think there's a part of dollar starts. Part of the reason I love it so much is the mental freedom it gives me. It is one huge less thing that I need to think about. I need to contemplate.
Yeah.
My jewelry shows and all the mental fog that I have had to put into the pricing is driving me absolutely insane. Like, it's more and more of a reason to go to dollar starts. I mean, the minute I went to dollar starts with vintage, it was literally like freeing. It was, I do not have to look at each and every item and figure out a price for it and then wonder if somebody's going to buy it. Like, it's
that mental load and lack of research that you have to do is so refreshing.
Yes.
The Sandra Millicents wants you to talk about the $3 starts. Why is it that you disliked it?
So, Millie, the reality is with the sourcing that we do, the volume that we run, the amount of product that we had, and I call it product, right? It's product. The reality of it is, if you can sell it for $3, you can sell it for $1. It's just that simple. Did I want to do that? No, because now I have to ship this $4.53 coffee cup for a sales price of 53 cents after fees.
Which after packaging, you're lose some money.
You lose money.
Yeah, but once they buy it, once that buyer right there got that great deal, paid $3 for that coffee mug or whatever it is, they're going to come back. I mean, so maybe
and that was my argument.
Yeah, maybe it's not that show, but we've got to have bigger, vision. Maybe it's not that show, but it's like if I go to Target and I score something great on the clearance rack, I'm already hooked. That's the first place I'm headed next time I walk into Target. It's the same thing at Whatnot. If they come to my show and they score a good deal.
But I'm taking those same principles that we talked about earlier. I wasn't comfortable with dollar starts in vintage because that was a complete change of category for us.
Yes, I get it.
I did not want 150 to 200 items sold in that show because it was completely we ran that show, those vintage items, just like we ran health and beauty, just like we ran food, just like we run jewelry now. I did not want to just pull a random item out of a box, say, okay,
someone clip that.
Here, it's $1. Stop. Just selling it at $1 with a minimal room count because everything was completely different. Everything about it changed. So I didn't want to lock us into $1 starts on 150 breakable pieces that we knew was going to take a long time to ship out as well.
I will also say, with those the $3 starts, Tony and I didn't agree. There's no secret on that. I wanted dollar starts all day.
Mm-hmm.
for those of you that get jealous about people working with their couples, it has its own challenges. Because we went back and forth, and in the end, I think the big thing is that we don't want to do vintage decor and breakables on Whatnot
Not in
because
volume.
I don't want to ship them in volume. I don't even want to put that on an employee to have to ship breakables in volume.
Oh dear Lord.
And that was kind of why I ended up conceding to the $3 starts, is because we really weren't looking to build an audience in that category. Um,
No, we had a finite amount of product that we were willing to run through. This wasn't something that was going to be long term for us. We did not really have this huge vision of growing a large vintage decor audience because that's not where we wanted to be for shipping. So started at $3 and just move it on and move on with life. That was my reasoning behind it.
but then we had all this crap left over
Yep.
that didn't sell, which is why I didn't like $3 starts.
So,
But we would have had so much more shipping out at dollar starts that would have ended up broken anyway.
I have to ask you a question then
Shoot.
with this. If it was a shipping control mechanism, why didn't you just do dollar starts and sell fewer items?
Honestly,
that's what I do.
honestly, because we planned on doing it for just a week or two
Mhm.
and just selling through the what was it, trailer or two trailers of vintage decor that we had. Again, it wasn't a long-term thing. I didn't want it to be a long-term thing. I wanted to get back to doing the health and beauty that we were doing, which the
Well,
reality of was at least profitable.
Tony was
I'm-
scared. He was scared.
well, I'm just asking from like if you were concerned about how many items you're going to ship out and you knew how much quantity you had in items and you knew how long you wanted to do it, you could have, like, knowing that at a dollar start it's going to get sold, you could have methodically, thought all that
Just
out.
with the-
I will
guaranteed-
answer this. It was easy for us to start on the app with dollar starts because we were already into profit on those truckloads of health and beauty
Yeah.
products, right? So it was very easy for Tony to be like, all right, we can take a loss on these products
Mhm,
starting out the gate because we're only playing with risking our time, not our money. And
mhm,
I think with breakables for Tony, it was more than that because at that time we had shippers that we were paying.
mhm.
Selling breakables is a lot of packaging cost, and there was a real chance of losing money in those shows, and I think that's what scared Tony.
Gotcha.
Yeah, maybe.
I-
Honestly, I never really thought of just selling less. That's never been the mentality on Whatnot.
But what's funny is you did it in a roundabout way. You tricked your brain into deciding to sell less by increasing your start price.
Correct.
And it was a colossal failure.
You learned something from it. That's all.
Thank you for that.
I bought some of that and resold it. And I don't consider that a failure.
Well, it wasn't a failure for you.
And she totally did, and I watched her sell that stuff and buy it for $3 because that's really all we were getting on a lot of those items because the same principles that you were talking about, Jeremy, were there. And then turn around, her dollar started on her show and it go to $18 or $20.
Not only that, we actually bought one back.
I did.
Yes.
Interesting. That's a fun one.
Yes. So
That's almost that's another topic that to discuss in the future. Okay, I was just curious with that one, but people are asking about dollar versus $3 versus $5. I mean, everything I talked about is why I wouldn't do 3, 5. I think a lot of people get this weird hang up with this principle of, oh, if it sells for $1, first it has to sell for $1. Secondly, it would have to be something for this to be a true thing to be concerned about. A ton of your stuff would have to sell for $1 for you to be so scared of that 30 cents. So that everybody freaks out about, like, oh, my end amount that I'm going to get out of that is next to none. It doesn't make sense. you got to understand that 30 cents is charged whether it's sold for $5, $8, or $10. That is actually irrelevant to the equation, and that's where people get their brains stuck. And the only time that would be relevant is if almost everything sold for $1. But then if you're doing that, you're doing it with a purpose behind it. And what we're talking about is the purpose behind why you're either doing dollar starts, $3 or $5 starts, whatever you decide to do. You guys decided to do $3 for a certain reason. But if you decide that you want to go with dollar starts, if you're newer, you're probably deciding to do it to gain some type of momentum, to gain some type of buyer base, whatever you decided to do it. Like I always say, try it as an event or do it as a alternative to giveaways. So you should already be mentally prepared for the fact that that's going to be the hit. So that should not be the equation that's taken into consideration as to whether or not you should do a dollar start, in my opinion. Because again, no matter what it sells for, you're paying that 30 cents, whether it sells for 3 or 5. And as you heard me talk about, what you're missing is all of the principles of the loss aversion and endowment effect of items going beyond those amounts. Because if it was going to sell, and the other thing people have to understand, there's a reverse to that. When you start something high, it has a tendency then to not get additional bids because of that.
Right.
That's
that
why
1%.
I also someone it wasn't in regard to this, but the fact that you can bid against yourself on whatnot, I don't want that to leave. If I was a bidder, I'd be utilizing that to my advantage to try to essentially jump bid. If I don't have the time to go out and be distracted, like leave the actual live in order to put a custom bid in, I would rather just sit there and swipe 4 or 5 times in order to get that bid to go up extremely fast and scare off the other bidders. It's a fact that will 100% happen. It's easy to convince yourself to go from 40 to 45 than it is to go from 30 to 40 or 20 to 40. Same, that scales the whole way down. If you start something at 3, chances are it's going to sell. If it's worth $5 to $6, chances are it's going to sell for $3. You start at $1, chances are it's going to sell for $5 or $6 as opposed to that $3. So you're missing all of that. And these numbers we're talking about don't sound like a lot, but again, if you're dealing in volume, it makes up so much. It makes all the difference. That's where a large portion of your profit comes from. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop rambling.
Evan asks, what do you do with dead stock? And the beautiful thing about dollar starts is there's never really dead stock.
Not really.
I will say that Tony sometimes on costume jewelry and on the lower end costume jewelry, he will not get a dollar bid on something. He sets it aside and something similar come up 20 minutes later, he'll add them together. There you go. Here's 2 items for $1.
Or it just becomes our buyer's giveaway at the end of the show.
But with dollar starts, there's hardly ever any dead stock. What are you going to do with your candlesticks, Tracy?
What candlesticks?
That didn't sell in your last.
They did sell. I brought them back out.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, dead stock for me is when I buy in the volume is stuff that I either can't sell because of terms of service situations and whatnot, or it's just too big.
Yeah.
And if you're asking what we do with that stuff, it goes to auction or donation.
Yeah.
Yep.
But also, I would like to make a point. I like some of the strategies that Jeremy implements in his shows. This morning, for example, there was a caddy that I think it was acrylic, and then he brought it up, he showed it, and he said, "Okay, anybody interested in? I need a couple of yes, go ahead.
Ours in the chat.
Ours in the chat. Nobody, okay, bye." So that's a very good strategy to come up with. Not necessarily constant, but it's something that is in the toolbox for you to use.
Yeah. It is definitely a tool if you have something that okay, we do dollar start. So this is the kind of stuff where we don't just commit to everything. You'll see me do that. Where like if it's bigger, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen me do that. I'm like, I need to have some R's in the chat. I need to know people want me to run this. And if you're going to employ that, make sure you do the countdown, or otherwise everyone sits and does. You got to get people scrambling, because until I started doing the 5-second countdown, I'd get nobody, and then I would take it off the screen, and then 5 or 6 people would be like, "No, run it." So do the countdown, get your R's, and if it seems like enough, run it. However, I will tell you, there's plenty of times that I still got nowhere near close to what I needed to get out of it to pay for the shipping to get it out the door. But it's still, it lets you know the pulse of things of whether or not someone's going to be, if you're going to have the bidders you are hoping for in order to get the price you need out of it. So.
Yeah. Good Grief asked if
wanna
I
talk
think
for a
that
minute about
$3
No, you
would
do
have
it.
sold. $3 would have sold for one. Good Grief, just to answer your question, 100%, like Lysandra said, when you're doing dollar starts, there isn't nothing. Everything sells for the most part. Since I started doing dollar starts, of the thousands of items that I've sold, maybe I can count on one hand of stuff that didn't sell. It's really, really rare that something doesn't sell at $1.
And I will say, let me put throw pallets into that, which will tend to have a large quantity of not very profitable stuff. Typically, that's when we'll start bundling up things and making it worth that dollar swipe, or finding alternative methods. Like maybe that ends up being something you donate. Sometimes those things just ended up in our brick and mortar store, which I understand not everybody has the option of. But there's always different ways to work around those things that if you're into pallets, that might not be worth it.
I just because Millie asked the question, we talked just a few moments ago about the buyer's giveaway and using items that didn't sell. You don't understand the mentality of giving a non-selling item as a buyer's giveaway. So, number one, the entire buyer's giveaway is not non-sold items. Number two, I still have to do something with that stuff. Do I save it and take the time to match it up with something else and run it for $1? Or do I use it as filler for what I'm giving away for free? I don't want it. If it doesn't sell for $1, I don't want to sit here and have that dead stock pile of jewelry. So you throw some items in there that never came across the screen, and then you throw some items in there that didn't sell, and you give it away to whoever won it.
Alternative thought, you could just add it into the crafter lots.
I could just
Yeah.
do it in the craft lots.
And I think I'm gonna
I don't want it either.
I'm
Then
gonna
don't enter the
challenge you.
giveaway.
Yeah,
If you
I'm
don't
gonna
want it, just don't enter
yes.
the giveaway.
giveaway. I'm gonna
You mean
challenge
you
on
didn't like
buyers though.
those ribbons?
Isn't the whole point of a buyer's giveaway to encourage people to buy? That's why you do a buyer's giveaway. In the whatnot world, I have never done a buyer's giveaway. I don't believe in buyer's giveaways for me. I just don't, not a thing for me. But the concept, to the best of my understanding, is to encourage people to buy. So usually the item in the buyer's giveaway is something valuable, something that it's like, oh, I really want that. It's like when you buy something, you're buying a lottery ticket for the chance to win the big prize at the end of the show. So if they didn't want it the first time, I mean, I think I'm on Millicent's page here. Why in the heck would they want it the second time? Like, why would where's the encouragement in there? Where's the carrot?
So again, it's not the full buyer's giveaway for us, right? It used to be a large flat rate box. And when you're talking health and beauty, that large flat rate box was worth anywhere from $200 to $400.
Correct.
And the non-selling stuff was really just filler, a little bit of filler in that box. Honestly, with jewelry, I'm for putting it in the craft lots and not the buyer's giveaway.
I like that
I have
idea.
I would suggest you do that because I feel something very reminiscent happening with you guys, and probably anything where your buyers will get to know not to bid on stuff because you're going to add it to the buyer giveaway at the end. I used to run into a
I agree.
situation similar to this when I was early on training people to sell for me in the jewelry category. I would just tell them, if it doesn't sell, just put it into a pile. And when I did that, those piles got bigger when they knew it was coming as a pile. I wouldn't give it away, but I'd sell the whole pile. So a lot of the people that would, usually bid $1 or $2 or $3, $2 or $3 for the item, they're just not bidding because they know, like, oh, now I'm going to get a crack at a pile at the end.
Tony and I just had that conversation within the last week, actually.
And it was way less profitable. So we stopped doing that. We just, I'd put it in a pile. And if I'm going to run the pile, it is at some random time, at some random show that I decide to pull the pile out and just sell, a big, pile of it. Me personally, I like to use the stack method when I have the opportunity to. You guys, I like to do that. I'll tell someone like, hey,
Juicy
get it to
lots.
$10 and I'll throw this in and keep, because if I run something for $1 with free shipping, it doesn't sell. It's usually because people aren't paying attention. But if it's that cheap, I'll just, hey, I'm going to run it again, and I'll, eventually make it worth their while. Like, hey, get it to a couple dollars, and I'll throw in just to get the dollars rolling. But
Kate, to answer your question, Tony and I just had our first crafting show. So, unlike Jeremy, where he will typically take that broken jewelry or whatever and just throw it in the middle of the show or at the end of the show, we were saving it back for an entire show. We haven't decided 100% if we want to just start throwing it in the middle of shows or do an entire crafting show, but it went way better than we thought it ever would. And that's one of the reasons, not only for what Jeremy talked about, we don't want to start setting an expectation for people not to bid. But also the crafter people mean business. They
I,
really do.
I'm going to throw out a suggestion to you. Do the crafters by itself, and I'm going to tell you what happens when you run a crafters pile during a regular jewelry sale. Certain people, they just popped in and aren't paying attention, and they buy
And
it,
they buy
thinking
it.
and then they are like, "This is all garbage. This is all broken." It's like, well, because they came in and they just see a pile of jewelry, or they didn't pay attention to what was going on. They're
I
bidding
get
on
that.
it. Happens a little more frequently than you'd like it to when you're doing those on a frequent basis. Like literally anymore, you've noticed probably I very infrequently bring out a pile of crafter stuff. I let it get pretty big and then just do it because of that reason. So like we do the spaghetti, like that's what I like to do. And the reason I'm also saying it with the spaghetti, when I had Em and Ariel, two of our employees, during the show where they pulled out piles, and I said, you can just sell this stuff as spaghetti. That was during a regular show. And I got a lot, not a lot, but enough of people that are like, the spaghetti stuff wasn't worth what I paid for it. It's because the atmosphere that they had, they were thinking, okay, these totes that we had designated for spaghetti, those are knotted up, lotted up piles of stuff, but they were selling better stuff earlier on. So the association of the better stuff, they immediately just assumed that they were selling all this high end, like, well, not high, but better quality stuff than what it really is.
Yeah.
And it's not like they were telling people, they gave them the right expectation, but you can't do anything about what somebody's thought pattern is going to be from the beginning of the show throughout the process of the show. So just a word of caution to you from my own personal experience about how you want to run things like crafters piles, whether you want to do it independently or coupled with another show.
Yeah, I like the crafters show.
I actually really did too, and I was way down in the dump starting that show.
Yeah, she was
like,
not
don't we
excited
do
about it
this?
at all, and I was like, hey, look, we have to at least attempt to sell it and get it out. I mean, at that point, we had like 4 boxes of crafting items, broken beads, that type of stuff. We have to do something with it, otherwise we're just throwing it away. And well, I'm a penny pinching fool. I don't like throwing anything away. So let's just run it through, see what happens. And I think I would prefer to do the crafting show for those reasons. But back to the same reasons that we talked about earlier is if you're selling 30, 40, 50 rings in a row and then you switch your product, you're going to lose those people. But you've already lost the people who want the crafting stuff by selling all the rings. But now you're losing some ring people. So if you come back to rings again, you've lost a bunch of your bidders. I liked keeping it in the same little, whatever genre it is you're doing. If you're doing mixed items throughout or just random pulls like you do, doesn't matter what tray it comes from, it's all random. If you're doing a specific ring and a ring show, do the rings for the whole show. If you're doing the crafting, do the crafting for the whole show. That's kind of where my head is at with the crafting stuff.
Did any of you watch Mr. Beast today?
I
Oh my
did
God,
not,
so
and everything I've heard so far tells me it was very unproductive.
Michelle, the fact that you have seen me on my Givey Goblin account the last couple days should tell you.
that we absolutely were in there. Of course we were.
Yeah, that was a I'm waiting for the
I-
fallout. I'm just gonna like my entertainment for the next 2 or 3 days is gonna be watching like Facebook and Reddit and just like that's gonna be
Yeah.
my entertainment for the next couple of days, just to see what they say.
I don't.
Well, you two have fun with that.
I don't-
I'm not in that.
I don't know that
world yet.
I don't even know that I want to talk about it yet before I've been able to fully digest it and think about it because I often say things that I regret later on. And I don't want to do that tonight.
Yes. Hold off.
You know, at the end of the day, if it brought people who may be in my show and buy something, wonderful. Yeah.
Well, that's what I don't want to be. Yeah.
Nice, Tracy.
I have my concerns, so and I'll let it at that. So
Southern Charm, there were so many.
And that's how.
From the first minute the show went live. So
Okay,
But-
I am going to address this really quick because this is we have to think about this a little bit differently. He's not a seller on here. He used the tools available. He was a contracted marketer. It was an advertising promotion, and a lot of people are all up in arms because of the terms of service. And trust me, I've kind of been like seeing it to myself, like, hey, wait a minute. But we have to remember that he was not acting in the capacity of a whatnot seller. He was a paid marketer, advertising. It was a whatnot thing, and whatnot makes the
Look,
rules. They
Tony,
can break their rules. So
My problem is not with Mr. Beast. It's with that it was a Whatnot sponsored show and Whatnot did not follow their own rules. That's my problem. But that I can't. I'll get on a tangent and say stuff I shouldn't say.
there were plenty of items in the bin that sold. That's all I have to say about it.
Oh my! How did we get tricked into talking about Mr. Beast?
I don't know. I knew it was going to happen at some point, though.
Yeah,
We have
100%.
to address the room count as well, and
The
like some of you think,
550,000.
how productive was that?
you couldn't read the chat. There was 500,000 people. I mean,
So
you want to talk about
Not only
you know,
only that, but the fact that Whatnot specifically told him not to raid at the end of the show. That was interesting. They knew it would break the app.
So as far as the room count, I was kind of watching room counts before he truly went live in other people's rooms and kind of gauging where they typically are in room counts and then watching afterwards after he went off. Honestly, I think the biggest missed thing with that show is they didn't require him to stream it to multicast it to his own YouTube. Like
Biggest missed
mind
opportunity of
blown that didn't
whole
happen.
marketing campaign.
You took a YouTube star, contracted him, and paid him to do a Whatnot show, but didn't have him multicast it to his own 500 million subscribers or whatever it is.
100%.
I don't know.
We could start a conspiracy theory as to why they didn't let him raid. Maybe because the viewers weren't really there. So if they raided, it would show the transparency.
Oh my God!
it was all bots. It was all bots filling up the chat.
Could you imagine being like having a room count of like 3 people and all of a sudden getting a 400,000 person raid? Holy cow! Although the way Whatnot's been with dropping people off on raids,
You would have lost 20%.
you would have lost.
At the top.
You would have lost. Yeah.
Just from iPhone versus Android.
That would have shot any confidence I may have had at the moment. Just saying.
So Good Grief just asked, any thought on flat rate box shows? I'll start. So 1, I would say it depends on what you're selling. 2, I would say that almost never in our experience does a flat rate box show sell for as much as the individual items.
Well, of course it's not.
Because depending on what you're selling, the buyers do not necessarily want everything that's in those boxes versus the items individually. So If you've got 30 items in a flat rate box and they sell for on average $8 an item, you're not going to get anywhere near $240 in sales for that box. You will be lucky to get $30 in our experience.
I think it's also an expected and understood principle that volume buying brings cheaper prices. I mean, that's why you buy in bulk
Yes.
in order to get cheap. So you have that mentality right out of the gate. And if you're the type of person that has, I mean, this comes back to sourcing again. If you have the merchandise to keep coming in and you can do the flat rate boxes and it helps you get like larger price points per knockdown and you have an infinite amount of supply essentially, then go for it. You know, like I don't do them. It's not anything that I would be comfortable doing with what I do. You know, obviously I do free shipping, so my entire approach to it is different. But if you're you know, if you're looking to do flat rate box, I've seen some people do what I would consider extremely successful flat rate shows. The people in the big warehouses that are kind of like what you guys did, either pallet buyers or just, you know, they have some ridiculous connection in order to get nonstop inventory. And they just keep putting, you know, stuff in those flat rate boxes and they do great. You know, you can tell like it does, like they could sit there and spend, you know, a week long selling throughout the duration of, you know, 8-hour shows every day of the week. And, you know, maybe make a few extra dollars on each item, but is that really worth it to them when they each knock? Because you're looking at more of a knockdown price as opposed to a per item price. If you have infinite amounts, essentially. So, but yeah, if you got the volume to do it, give it a try.
I personally, I don't have the unlimited volume for that type of thing, and I didn't like how they were turning out.
For us, that we did not feel that they were profitable enough to make it worth it. Now, if you are an established business that already has the employees in place to do the shipping, to do the front end work, um, and you're okay with a certain profit margin, then why not? Or like Brian, and I don't know if he's still in the chat, Jack's Treasures, you know, they just kind of did a bundle box show too, and it was on things that they didn't feel were worth any money.
Yeah.
So and that kind of goes back to that dollar starts, and what do you do with overstock? Well, fill a box and sell it.
Right.
Get it out of your way so you can move on to other stuff. I do think they have their place. I don't have any problem with them at all.
I will say this: they are our easiest shipping shows ever.
Yes, we actually
By the
on
time the show was done, the labels were printed, the boxes were in the trailer, ready for the post office.
on our flat rate box shows. We had someone, we brought an extra person in to instantly print the labels right after the box was sold. It was packaged up, put in the trailer, and by the end of the show, everything was done. No shipping. It was already in the trailer, ready to go to the post office. That is the best part about them, actually.
Yes.
I've never done them, so I can't speak to them whatsoever.
Yeah.
I kind of always wanted to try them because I like that. One of the shows we did that I was really happy with, not a flat rate box, but we did like a bundle, like where we sold 6 records at a time.
Mhm.
But you had to pay for each, like the shipping.
Mhm.
Each one was, you had to pay each time for each one instead of like a bundle. We were literally, it was so nice because literally taped it shut and it just got shipped out. Like it went right to the next
Nice.
stage.
Exactly.
Label
Yep.
slapped on it and the thing out that day. Like you know,
Exactly.
everything was done. That all the shipping was done within like 15 minutes after the show ended because everyone just had to pick up where things were, you know, backed up a little bit by the end of the show. But no, it was it was one of the smooth. But I haven't been able to recreate it in any other type of shows on a consistent basis, so I just kind of abandoned it as a main, you know, a main principled selling style.
Yeah, the shipping on them are amazing, and if you can deal with the profit margins that they bring in, go for it. They in general they were too low for Tony and me to be okay with. So it's not something that fits into our business model. And now we're getting out of pallets altogether. So
I won't be
it definitely
doing
doesn't
flat
fit.
rate boxes of jewelry anytime soon.
God, that's a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Never
just do
say
me.
never, Tony.
No, maybe. Who knows?
Well,
Are there
folks,
any lasting questions before we call it a night?
Oh, it's been wow.
Yeah, we talked
Yeah.
right up to
Time
it.
flies. Yeah. Doesn't look like it if we're all questioned out. And
Right.
yeah, I feel like we might be revisiting some of these topics. But yeah.
Yeah, we didn't even scratch the surface at
Nope.
all.
Nope, we didn't. But that's a good thing. Means we're not going to run out of stuff to talk about, right? So,
I think with the four of us here, we can keep talking about things for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah. So, yeah. Does that mean are we done for the evening then? It's 8:30 on the
Well,
nose.
I would say real fast, thank everybody for hanging out with us. Don't forget to like that video, please.
Yes, please.
All right.
Bye,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Then we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Catch you all later.
See you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.